Well, we are currently here with Veda Scott. We are at FWE, and my first question for you is, who is currently the most handsome redhead that's interviewing you right now?
You do have red hair. It's hard to tell in the light here, but yeah, no. And you're I suspect, a natural redhead.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
As am I, clearly.
Yes, clearly.
Naturally Crayola colored. So I'm going to have to go with you, just by process of elimination.
Wow. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Secondly, now, you're wrestling all over right now. You are in Ring of Honor as well.
Yep.
Do you think it's time? I know that Shimmer belts are recognized, but do you think it's time for Ring of Honor to have their own women's champion?
Absolutely. And Maria Kanellis is here tonight as well, and I'm sure you'll ask her about this in the Women of Honor too, if you get to speak to her. This is something we really feel strongly about, and building a strong Women of Honor division. So I'm glad you asked me. Yes, I don't think necessarily a title belt is the first step, but the idea of that in order to build around that would be great.
Now, we are big fans. We are following you on Twitter and all the social media things. What is your favorite vegan cupcake?
It's hard, because I do love cupcakes. Well, recently I've been making a peanut butter banana cupcake that's pretty stellar. It's a banana cupcake with a peanut butter icing. That might be my current favorite vegan cupcake. Although, I did have recently, someone made a vegan version of the maple bacon cupcakes that are very trendy right now. So someone made a maple bacon cupcake with the vegan bacon chips on it, and that was actually pretty good. I hate to admit it. The bacon flavor is sort of a universal favorite. It doesn't have a whole lot to do with the pig. That might not be a popular opinion, but I had a vegan maple bacon cupcake that is pretty good. But my peanut butter banana cupcakes are probably the best. That's number one right now in the world, actually.
Okay, you heard it. You heard it here first. Now, I'm sure you get this question a lot, but as far as professional women's wrestling, do you feel that it's on an up? Like, do you feel like it's better than it's ever been before?
Oh yeah, no, I legitimately do. I think right now there's so much talent everywhere, and there's so much international crossover too. Like, for example, this weekend I'm scheduled to wrestle at another show tomorrow, someone from Australia. There's just international talent everywhere. You mentioned Shimmer, so much international talent, but at the same time there's so much domestic talent too. Like tonight I'm going to be wrestling Hanaya, and she's phenomenal, and she's homegrown. You know, she's right from the States too, and so yeah, I think there's just so much talent out there right now that every show should have at least one women's match on, and they're all quality. Like, it's not, it's the popcorn match anymore. Like, these are quality matches.
Okay, now lastly, it kind of coincides with the same question, but Trish Stratus recently did an interview, and she talked about how Paige and AJ Lee should wrestle more men, similar to what they did back in there. How do you feel about those intergender matches? Do you think that it adds something, or do you think it's just like a gimmick thing to do?
Well, I do a ton of intergender wrestling, obviously, and I think as long as wrestling is good, this sounds like such a cliche, but I think no matter who's involved, as long as wrestling's good and as long as talented people are involved, it's something that people want to see. And I think that there's always a story. And it's a different story every time, but there's a setup story, obviously, with any sort of intergender wrestling. And I didn't hear that particular interview. I did see someone quoting it, but I don't want to necessarily talk about it without seeing it myself. But the idea that I think what I got from it was this idea that, and this is true, that years ago there was a lot more involvement, like a lot more crossover between, like, the women would be maybe involved with the men more often. Not even necessarily in action, but in terms of, like, where stories were going, that sort of thing. And I think that's great. But at the same time, if you have females who are strong enough to do their own thing and be engaging and interesting on their own, like, you don't necessarily have to pair them up as part of an act. So I think there's a middle ground to be found. I think a lot of us are trying to do that right now. Obviously, like I said, I do a lot of intergender wrestling. There's a lot of it happening right now. Hanaya herself does a whole lot of it too. And we just want to wrestle as much as possible. And if that means that we have to wrestle men, or that we get to wrestle men in order to be able to do what we love to do, then that's great.